So I remember reading my Bible one day, and this scripture popped out to me. You remember when Jesus told Peter, Peter, Satan is out to get you. He wants to sift you like wheat. He told him two powerful things. He said, Peter, I'm going to pray for you. But then he told him something else. And when you have overcome, go help your brother.
And what do y'all hope to see by the end of today?
Hope to see like hands going up. Hands raised. Yeah. I want to see hands raised.
For some reason, it popped out to me. After you have overcome, go help your brother. And it was like God telling me, it's time to go back in. It's time to go back. You're overcoming, Orlando. You're doing good. You have your family, you have your business. And I started to choose to change.
I didn't hesitate to stab somebody. I didn't hesitate to shoot nobody or think about it twice. And I seen this photograph and I saw my eyes staring back at me. You know, wearing those, that Dora the Explorer bow with a pink shirt with 3 little daisies on it. And it cracked me because my heart was so hard that in order for God to even have a chance to get in there and do his thing, it had to crack.
This is my first prison invasion, so I'm very excited to be out here and to be able to share my testimony with these men. I'm expecting for God to move and to use us to be able to empower these men to become the fathers, the leaders, and the husbands that we've been called to be. Like Orlando teaches in the Choose to Change class, we have to believe in the impossible.
I'm excited to see like the inmates reaction to what they're going to do.
The music, the testimonies.
I was 14 years old. I broke into Sheriff's house. I took his gun, his bulletproof vest. He was actually sleeping inside the house. He was actually in there when I broke in. By the time he figured out that I was in there, I already had the pistol.
People have absolutely no idea what I've come out of. I mean, they see all the imperfections and that I'm not polished or nothing. They have no idea what it took for God just to get me to where I am now. Where I am a son who takes care of a mother who is 90% blind and disabled. And I am a father who has to bring up a little person to teach them how to survive in the world. That I'm a business owner and I have to be social.
I'm 30 years old and I don't have anything. I lost my car when I totaled it. You know, that's the last thing I had under my name. I don't even have my family no more. That girl, you know, she was there with me for a little bit. She found another guy, man, and left me there by myself. That's when I really I knew that I wanted to change. That I needed a change. I needed a change.
Really, my heart was, I just wanted to go help some folks because I knew that there was men just like me. So what exactly is the Choose to Change Foundation? And what exactly does our organization or our ministry do?
I grew up in the 80s in the PSJ area. With my mom. Obviously, my dad and my mom had already split up when I was a baby. So I didn't really see my dad that often. I take full accountability for all of my choices, even though I know that I was in an environment and growing up in a time where you had to make decisions based on your very limited knowledge of the world if you didn't have a father figure to really guide you. That limited knowledge was going to get you in a lot of trouble making decisions that were life-changing.
You know, I was the first one to raise my hand up, you know, wanted to be the smartest kid in class, you know, answer the questions the fastest, finish the homework the fastest. And, but, you know, coming home, you know, it was a different situation. My father, you know, he was an alcoholic. Both of them were alcoholics. You know, they would drink every day. I could pretty much say they were both abusive towards each other. You know, they would fight. They would make me feel bad because I was smart. You know, I was like going to school. You know, they weren't coming to my award ceremonies, and you know, it made me feel some kind of way. It didn't make no sense for me to do good. You know, at that time. Like, you know, I'm just gonna go a different route. For me, it was fun. It was fun, and when I went into juvenile, from there, it was like, man, another attention, another that I got, and I fed off of it. That became the beginning of so many times going in and out of juvenile.
I wasn't necessarily attracted to the gang life. I was attracted to the respect. How did I go from understanding the concept of being able to get a scholarship to sitting in the county jail awaiting my fate if I was gonna spend the rest of my life in prison or not for killing another gang member?
I went to prison. I was 14 years old. I broke into the sheriff's house. I took his gun, his bulletproof vest. He was actually sleeping inside the house. He was actually in there when I broke in. By the time he figured out that I was in there, I already had the pistol. I had the pistol in my hand, and I had his bulletproof vest on. So he's like, I'm not gonna, he's gonna shoot me with my own pistol. So he let me go out, but by the time when I left, I was almost like 2 blocks away from my home when I got surrounded by the sheriff department.
The first time I went to prison, I was a 17-year-old kid. Long story short, some guys went and surrounded my house, and I got in a fight with them. They threw rocks and almost hit my mom. The people that were in the leadership position of my gang didn't want to give me a weapon because they didn't want me to get caught up. I was a hard knucklehead. I said, well, I'm gonna go rob some stores, get the money, buy my own gun, and go shoot these guys. And I was adamant at 17 of going and committing a murder because these people had came to my house and disrespected my house. That I'm glad that I got caught for armed robbery over murder, and they allowed me to go 5 years to prison. But those 5 years hardened me.
I actually wanted to go to prison, and I ended up going. Some crazy things I saw there, man. When I got in there, it's tough, man. It's pretty much a dog eat dog, and I made a decision. I'm not. But I was the one that was bullying. This is juvenile prison, and then I get out. I'm 19 years old, in and out of jail, and I go to prison for the first time for possession of controlled substance. And by this time, I'm already with my wife. I have my daughter.
Once someone decides to change their lives, the process begins. Once people get to that crossroads, prison, where we're going to right now, is a crossroads. They got to a crossroads and they're ready, or they know they need to change. So they're gonna make a decision, and that's where we come in. That's where it starts. It has to do with wanting to change, wanting something better, wanting a new life. Wanting to be a better father, wanting to be a better mother, wanting to stay sober, wanting to stay out of prison. That's what it takes. I don't know what it's gonna take for you, I tell people, but here's what it took for me.
I was still trying to be the baddest person out there. I love my daughter, I love my kids, but it really didn't stop me. What I thought was being a good father was, I made sure they were fed, I made sure they had clothes, I made sure they had a house, I'll pay my rent, However, I got the money, it doesn't, but as long as they, that was me being a good father. But at the same time, I had my issues, I had drug problem and addicted to drugs, and I was out on the streets and still breaking into houses.
Right? So when I got out, the one thing that helped me was my brother gave me an opportunity to leave Texas for a while. So in Dallas, I ended up in one of my first long-term relationships. And I remember I was learning my trade, the trade I have now. And I began to learn how to repair drywall, how to be a drywall finisher. So the market crashed and I lost my job. So here I'm sitting with this girl who had 2 kids, they weren't mine. We were living in a house. I was 26 years old. I hadn't been to prison in almost 10 years. And my bills were coming. They were about to repo my vehicle. I knew the eviction notice was coming anytime soon. At the time, my way of, man, I'm in a bind. I relapsed back to my criminal thinking. So with the last check that I got, I went and I bought an ounce of cocaine. Instead of spending my check on the bills, I went and bought an ounce of cocaine. I broke it down into 20s and dimes, and I began to sell drugs in Dallas again. And I got sucked back into this lifestyle in a completely different city, mind you, in the city I'm used to, in a completely different environment. I ended up getting caught for a drug possession charge. And that consequence of me being incarcerated or everything, during that same time, my mother developed lymphoma. She got cancer, so I had to move back home while I had an open case in Dallas. My life was at one of the lowest points it had ever been. So I'm sitting there, my mother's going to cancer, her hair is falling out. I'm a fugitive of the law with a dope charge in a completely different city. And I'm like, man, what am I gonna do? So I was on the run. So in that process of me being on the run, I ended up getting into a shootout with an attempted robbery, a shootout where people were trying to jack me, and I defended myself, and I ended up taking a person's life. So I got into, instead of things getting better, they got worse for me. So I am released from prison, and in one of those drug classes, it was mandatory for me to go out and meet my daughter's mom. And in that moment, I met her, we clicked, she got pregnant. I didn't know that she had gotten pregnant. She comes and looks for me about a couple of months later, like 5 months later, and she says, I'm pregnant, and it's gonna be a girl. So it kind of freaked me out a bit because I was in a lot of trouble. I was still the prime suspect of a homicide investigation with 9 years of parole to look forward to. She leaves, she tells me, I'm pregnant by you. She leaves, I don't see her again for a while.
I started losing everything, all my money, everything. We started losing everything. And me and my wife were fighting and bickering all the time. And because I started losing all money, so I had to get a job, try to make ends meet. And while I'm working, there's this girl there. I fell for her. And my wife caught me. And I didn't deny it. I don't know what happened, I was like, yeah, I'm doing it. So I told her, you know what, as a matter of fact, I don't want to, it's like I want to end this relationship. I'm losing our money. I don't, what we had, everything we built, or we were trying to build, we're losing it. You know what, she could do better without me. And at the same time, I just want to be free. And, with this girl, we're partying every weekend. And, that's what I thought. I was drinking and driving. But what happened is I wrecked. Actually, I flipped over 3 times. I lost consciousness. And there was a whole bunch of police officers and stuff, and they charged me with a DWI case. I was angry, because I knew I was going back to prison. He wants to sentence me to 10 years prison time. He's like, dude, you never got it. I just told the lawyer, hey man, he wants to give me all this time, man, but try to give me the least you can. He comes back and he's like, man, I don't know who you're praying to, man, but you know what? Your judge just stepped out. Just that morning, he stepped off. They just offered you 3 years. I was like, man, I'll take them. I didn't know about God. I just thought I was lucky. But I did want to change. I wanted something different, but I just didn't know how. I didn't know how to change. But it all actually happened getting there to the prison. It's when everything changed. I get to the prison and the gang coordinator pulls me to the side. And she tells me, she's checking out my tattoos, and she's like, you're still active? I'm like, yeah, I'm still active. And she's like, how old are you? I told her, I'm 30. She says, you're 30 years old and you're still with us childish games? And that really hit a nerve. It hit me. It's like, man, I'm 30 years old and I don't have anything. I lost my card when I totaled it. That's the last thing I had under my name. I don't even have my family no more. That girl, she was there with me for a little bit. She found another guy, man, and left me there by myself. That's when I really I knew that I wanted to change. That I needed a change. I needed a change.
So one day I'm brushing my teeth. I actually ended up getting a job. My mother, God bless her heart, financed a vehicle for me so I can go to work. The U.S. Marshals arrested me for first-degree murder. And 90 days later, I was indicted for first-degree murder. And I'm sitting in the solitary confinement cell in Hidalgo County on the verge of becoming an old man, right? Not to say 30 years old or anything like that, but old for what I'm doing. And my mother's home healthcare provider, they found the mother on Facebook and she posted pictures of my daughter and they mailed them to me. It changed me so much just by looking at my daughter for the first time that it terrified me. I had never been that weak. My heart was so hardened. I didn't hesitate to stab somebody. I didn't hesitate to shoot nobody. And I wouldn't even cry about it because my heart was so hard that in order for God to even have a chance to get in there and do his thing, it had to crack. This was the photograph. This was the first photograph that I received when I was in prison. This was a photograph. And I seen this photograph and I saw my eyes staring back at me. I was extremely popular within my gang. A lot of people respected me and looked up to me. And I felt conviction for the first time. Real conviction. I've never felt conviction before. I didn't even know what the heck that was. I had made a decision the minute that I knew I was a father of a beautiful little girl. I wanted to die doing the right thing. I would rather die in a pool of blood on a rec yard doing the right thing, getting out of gang culture, than spend the rest of my life as a deadbeat dad. That was my choose to change moment.
We're in line to go to chow hall, and there's another inmate. There's a Christian inmate in the front, and he's witnessing. And I'm in the back. I'm talking to my homie. You know, we're talking. He was like way up there, but I could hear it. I know, like it just hit me somewhere. And, you know, I've always heard about Jesus, and I go up to him and I tell him, "Hey man, hey, can I talk to you?" "Yeah, man. I heard you talking, man. It's something. It's powerful. Can you tell me what you were talking?" "Yeah, I was talking about Jesus, man. You know Jesus?" It's like, "Man, I've heard of Jesus." She said, "But do you know him?" I was like, "No." And little by little, I started just chilling with him. I realized that was my way to change. So I'm paroling. And you know, I know God just moves so powerfully, man. It's because a lot of people are telling me, "Man, you're gonna leave your Bible at the door. You know, you're a Christian, you're a prison Christian. You know, nobody's gonna want you out there. You know, it's different out there." I get to the parole office. So Orlando Salinas shared his testimony. I'm in this class and he's sharing his testimony. And man, it's like he's just speaking. It's like I zeroed it, like he's just speaking to me. It's like boom, and it's like if you're looking for a miracle, miracle's right in front of you. Like, wow. Man, he finished that class. I didn't wait for anything, man. As soon as I basically ran outside. I think I didn't even let Orlando get in his car. I just, he's like, "Hello?" "Yeah, like, Orlando Salinas." Yes, sir." He's like, "Hey, my name's Oscar Cruz, man. I just stepped out of your class. I want that miracle." He's like, "I just have one question for you." He's like, "Do you want to change or not? Just simple." Like, "Yes, sir. Well, meet me here at this time."
It was in parole at the Hidalgo County Parole Office where they went. I hadn't met Orlando yet. I was just listening to Rudy, but I really liked him. I don't know, I clicked with him. He was just sharing his experiences and about how we have to take accountability for our own actions, and if we do want to make changes in our lives, then we have to take that serious. And so I walked up to him and he said, "Yeah, man, we have a mentoring class every Thursday." And I kind of liked that because it was kind of like AA, but it wasn't AA. And it was mandatory for me to go to something like that. And I like Choose to Change more than AA because I'm not an addict. I was a gang member. So when I would get up and say, "Hi, I'm Chris and I'm an addict," I would feel stupid because I'm not one. You know what I mean? It was crazy because you first go because of the signatures, but you stay because of the people. I wasn't looking for perfect people. I wasn't looking for holy rollers. I wasn't looking for Bible thumpers. I was looking for authentic people that were in the struggle, but were doing the best they could to have a relationship with God and change their life. And that's what I needed. That is what I needed in my life. I needed somebody that had patience with me because I'm rambunctious. I come out of an environment where it's just very different. And in a place where I could grow, right? And so I found that in Choose to Change. You getting grounded and surrounding yourself with men that are gonna hold you accountable and stuff is necessary, even if you don't like it. Because out here, it takes one beer and one pack of cigarettes away from completely backsliding and doing something stupid. A lot of people don't know this about my mentor, or what he does behind the scenes. What he does behind the scenes is way deeper than what he does in public, that he never gets credit for. What Orlando does for us behind the scenes that nobody sees, man, that is huge. He's invested so much time in so many of us behind the scenes that we owe it to him, not only to keep the foundation alive, but to keep his memory alive and the spirit that he imparted in us. And I don't think people tell him that enough. That's what Choose to Change for me means. It's what you do when people ain't looking that really matters.
forgiving us of our sins, God. I pray this morning you visit us, Lord. It is no mistake that each and every one of us are here in this place.
You know, the greatest accomplishment my mentor has ever done, he's never gotten credit. And no one's ever seen. And they're always done in secret. That conversation he's willing to have with somebody that is in down and out, that I feel like my mentor has given me enough tools and enough knowledge and wisdom that I'm able to climb out of any hole. I would have not had that confidence without Choose to Change. I was feeling down and out because I hadn't found Megan. So I just was at the church. I wasn't even supposed to be there that day. I don't know what the heck I was doing. Well, my radiator gave out on me and I left my Jeep at the church that day. Childhood friends who became a Christian picked me up. So he invited me to a barbecue. It was like a men's Bible study. And in that barbecue, a guy there heard my story. His wife is from where my child mother is, told him, hey, tell that guy that she got all her kids taken from her. They're in CPS. So right away, I called CPS. I said, hey, I'm the dad. They said, well, go into the office. I go into the office. I'm registered as the non-custodial because I opened up a child support case when Megan was 4 months old. That's the only way I had a little bit of leverage to go in, because I happened to have done the right thing at the right time. So I show up, and on paper, I was a non-custodial, but I didn't have no rights because paternity had not been established. I hadn't signed the birth certificate. They wouldn't even let me see her yet. I pushed them and forced the DNA. I said, I'll pay for it. So when I came back as the father, everything changed. I now had rights. Now we had to do, oh, how do we do this? Or how do we introduce this little girl who doesn't know this man to him? My daughter's entire world had to come tumbling down because my daughter had been lied to that someone else was her father. So basically the therapist had to break down her world, and now this is your dad, and now I had to reshape it. Her mom said that she went home and she cried that entire night because she was super confused about everything. She got over it, she exhaled, she washed her face and said, okay, I'm ready to meet my real dad. And she went to the first visit very boldly. I gave her a Barbie, I think that was dressed as a doctor, and I gave her a bouquet of flowers. I was able to hug her at that day. She was really confused. It went from her mom leaving, right, her crying, to, okay, I can be with him by myself, he's cool. So then she could stay by herself. And then it progressed, and they gave me the visits that were supervised so that I can like plan events with her. So I would plan, like we did, then you see the pictures all over my living room. We planned I built a whole spaceship.
I'm very grateful for Orlando Salinas, his wife, Isabel, how they received me, and the level of concern, and how they would follow up. They invited me out to the church. I started going out, so they invited me out to the church. I was looking for a church. I found that there was a whole bunch of people that were exactly like them. They're at the church. Doors started opening. I got a whole different life I never thought was possible. I got my family back. She started coming to Choose to Change with me. She has a very good relationship with Isabel Salinas, and they received my marriage was restored, and then God's will, I'm pastoring. I've been pioneering for 5 years, and out here in Alton, and like I said, I'm back with my kids, and not only that, my new son, Ezekiel, I mention him because, I love my kids, but, I know he's a blessing. I felt God tell me, to work on my testimony, but I didn't understand why God wanted me to format it. All of a sudden, man, I've been to Reynosa, to Edinburgh, to our mother church.
Yes, our primary goal is to get you to pull that needle out of your arm forever. Our primary goal is to stop you from going to prison forever. Our primary goal is to get you saved and get you to understand the power of the cross. But then after we do that, we don't stop. There's more than just not being an addict, not being a convict, not being a career criminal, not being a gang member. There's more. And that's, to me, that's the difference and what I like about Choose to Change.